Sorry about that. I had to pause there for a second. Anyway, so can I unpause this? Yeah, there we go. It looks a bit weird with everything frozen in the background there with no sounds. So yeah, no, what I would do to improve the actual story is, well, you know, it would take a lot more than a simple mod to really majorly improve Skyrim's main quest story. But what I would do if I was making a mod is I would make a mod which contained maybe one or more companions for you to go through the entire main quest with, who were worked into the quest itself, who would offer you some interesting dialogue and stuff like that. And the reason for that really is, after having played Dawnguard this far, I've kind of noticed quite conspicuously that were it not for having Serana following me around, offering all their unique little bits of dialogue and stuff like that, Dawnguard's questline would actually be really dull. It would actually probably be really boring. If it was just you going around and there was no Serana at all whatsoever, doing all this stuff to beat the vampires, Dawnguard would be pretty crap, actually. It'd be kind of dull. Like, the story doesn't stand up that well by itself. But by adding a character like Serana into it to follow you around and offer you ongoing kind of nice dialogue and interactions and stuff like that, it improves the story by a hell of a lot. So if I was going to make a mod which was going to sort of somehow make a kind of quick attempt at improving Skyrim's main quest, is I would make a couple of NPCs maybe that you could use as companions, who would really kind of whose entire character arcs would tie you right directly into the main quest, you know. So that's probably what I'd do, actually. Yeah, that's probably my best solution, if you like. So anyway, moving on. Forever the Sick Gamer asks, why did you make your YouTube username Jingles? Well, Jingles is basically a nickname I got back when I first kind of came onto the internet properly and was posting on forums and stuff. But I think it was back when I was posting on the Total War Center forums. I think Jingles kind of became this kind of nickname people used to just call me, because my actual name at the time was a bit longer than that, so people just kind of shortened it to Jingles, and it stuck basically, and I kind of liked it. I thought it was a bit endearing, and I kept it, and ever since then it's kind of been my online internet kind of handle, if you like, my the name I use for just about everything really, and it's stuck. And so when I would set up a YouTube channel, obviously just calling it Jingles was the clearest solution. I couldn't think of a better name at the time, so there you go. I guess there it is. I mean, I suppose Jingles is a weird enough name for people to actually remember it, which, you know, goes in my favour, I suppose. So there you are. Okay, what else we got? I think that bloody bard is playing his flute again, if I'm not mistaken. Fuck it, I'm just going to ignore him. Bastard. At this rate, I'm just going to sack him. I am. Right, okay, moving on. The Demon 15. Who? Oh, it's Faendal. Alright, he's alright. He's not such a problem. I have to wonder what the hell he's doing, getting up my face like that. I guess he's inspecting the yeah, he's cleaning my armor for me. That's what he's up to. He's my steward, by the way. So, well, hopefully he'll go away by himself, or I'll have to move. Thank you, Faendal. There you go. You see, he's not an annoying NPC, but the bard's bloody annoying. Anyway, the Demon 15 asks, what is your complete thoughts on the Elder Scrolls Online if you're going to play it, and how good do you think the game will be? We've already answered this. I'm not specifically requesting you guys to go back and check if your question has already been asked, but I would appreciate it if you did, because otherwise it just wastes my time. No offense, Demon 15. It's just I already answered this, so anyway. Butter and Jelly My Toes. Interesting name. Are you nostalgic about Oblivion? Personally, I am, and would cut off my left arm for a Cyrodiil DLC where you overthrow the Thalmor. Well, as far as I know, the Thalmor don't actually rule Cyrodiil, so yeah, there's that. But also, yeah, I do get a little bit nostalgic about Oblivion from time to time, actually. Now the game has aged significantly compared to back in the day. Like, among the Elder Scrolls community for a long time, there was this huge binary split between the people who thought Morrowind was better and people who thought Oblivion was better. and now that's kind of been ruptured completely by the fact that Skyrim has now come out, and you have this three-way split now, and I think a lot of people are a lot more forgiving of Oblivion, and a lot of other people are more forgiving of Skyrim, like myself, for example. So I occasionally do get nostalgic for Oblivion. I think whenever, especially if I'm wandering around near Falkreath and a bit of the Oblivion soundtrack comes on in this game, for instance, I do sit there and I listen to it and I think, yeah, wouldn't mind going back and playing Oblivion at some point. And thankfully, because I'm doing a Let's Play of it, I have the chance to do that. So yeah. And so right, okay. And the next question is from Dark XX Angel 13.
Divine smile on you, friend.
Thanks for that, Faendal. And that is, what was your favourite Skyrim mod? Holy crap, okay. I haven't installed a lot of big mods in the same way for Skyrim in the same way as I have for Oblivion. I think for me Skyrim is very much like Morrowind in that I occasionally install some mods to kind of tweak it up a little bit, but I haven't installed anything particularly major. Because the vanilla experience is enough for me. You know, I kind of enjoy it enough as it is. I just like having a few tweaks here and there. So it's difficult to point to one huge big mod that I've got that I really like the most, because they all kind of complement one another. If I had to really be specific though, and pick one, I guess maybe it would either have to be Deadly Dragons or Warzone Civil Unrest, because they probably add the most to my game. Deadly Dragons obviously is a mod which it adds more types of dragons into the game, and it makes the existing dragons a lot more tougher to kill. Makes them a lot more difficult to kill, especially Alduin. The final boss fight with Alduin with Deadly Dragons installed is way harder than it was in the original game. So that's a cool mod. And Warzone Civil Unrest is a mod which basically adds lots more battles between the Stormcloaks and Imperials going on across Skyrim. There's we're talking literally hundreds of NPCs battling out, Mount and Blade style almost, across different areas of Skyrim, and that I feel is a seriously good mod. It not perhaps everyone's cup of tea, but it really changes the way you explore and approach Skyrim's kind of landscape, because there are now areas that you kind of really need to avoid, like the Plague at lower levels, if you don't want to get ganked by a wayward soldier in the middle of a battle or something like that. So you know, that adds a lot, I think. And as for others, I don't really know, if I'm honest. There's no big questline mods yet, and you know, there's no radical overhauls yet that I particularly like anyway. I know there's stuff like Skyrim, but I feel some of those things, unlike Oblivion's Oscura overhaul, whatever it's called, that actually fixed a lot of things and removed the leveling system and that kind of thing, which actually did stuff which I think was a genuine improvement. Stuff like Skyrim, 90% of it feels like people are just changing stuff for the sake of changing stuff, as opposed to actually improving anything. So yeah, I guess there's that. Anyway, okay, next from 211 Romulus. I assume that's Romulus from the Oneological forums. If it is, hello. What are your favourite types of hats? Oh, I like that question. Don't know. Fedoras are obviously awesome, but you've really got no excuse to wear one in this day and age without looking like a prat. If I'm honest. Trilbies are good though. You can get away with wearing a trilby these days. And generally speaking, like big furry wintry hats actually. I have like this very big furry hat which looks like it might have been made in Russia at some point or something like that, which has ear flaps and all that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't go anywhere without it in the middle of winter, because it stops my ears from freezing and falling off. It's awesome. It's brilliant. Yeah, I'm not much of a hat person, I'm afraid, really. So, but yeah, those I quite like. Mainly because they're useful. CD Scythe asks, what province will Bethesda pick for the next Elder Scrolls game? Well, am I supposed to know? I don't work for Bethesda, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't tell you. But like I said before, I'm hoping for either Somerset Isle or Blackmarsh, so it's pretty much impossible to say though at this point. There are no clues like there were after Oblivion. Like, a lot of people knew the next game was going to be Skyrim because Bethesda specifically reserved the name Skyrim for copyright. So that's how people knew Skyrim was going to be, well, set in Skyrim. whereas that's not been the case for any future Elder Scrolls game. I imagine it's going to be quite a long time until we see another Elder Scrolls game. Because Bethesda, the next game that Bethesda releases is going to be Fallout 4, and I would imagine they've been working on Fallout 4, at least it's been in pre-production since they finished Skyrim. So, yeah, that's probably what's going to be released next, and then after Fallout 4 is finished, the next Elder Scrolls game will probably go into full-on pre-production, and then they'll start making that. So it's years away, people. It's not something that we really ought to be worrying about at this point, I think. Okay, so, next. Smart Card Dude asks, will you bring back more Oblivion if it becomes more stable? And the answer is, not a chance in hell. I'm sorry, because, well, A, I don't think it's ever going to become more stable, because they've stopped working on it, really, and they've moved over to Skywind. And 2, I don't really see why I'd play more Oblivion over just a modded Morrowind at the end of the day, actually. I mean, there are some things I really do like about more Oblivion, in that they at least implemented some NPC daily routines using the Radiant system, which I've come to take for granted in Elder Scrolls games, but having gone back to play Morrowind recently, I really miss that. But yeah, other than that, no, I think honestly I prefer to play Morrowind with some mods at the end of the day, than more Oblivion. Unless they seriously advance the way the state more Oblivion is in, but in its current state, even if all the bugs were fixed, I don't think I'd enjoy it that much, so that's not probably going to come back, I'm afraid. Ninth Demon Days asked, God fucking damn it, why the hell aren't cloaks in the game by default? Huh, Jingles? Why? The answer is, I don't bloody know. I've been criticising the Elder Scrolls for their distinct lack of cloaks ever since Daggerfall. I mean, they had cloaks in Daggerfall, which was, in hindsight, kind of pointless, really, because you couldn't see your player character in Daggerfall, you couldn't come out of first-person mode, so why the hell put cloaks in the game? I don't know, but they did. And for some reason in Morrowind they didn't put any in. Then they continued that tradition all the way to Skyrim, so we've had to rely on mods for our cloaks. And it's silly, because everybody gets cloaks in fantasy universes, it's a thing. Have they not watched Lord of the Rings? God damn it, I mean, come on. Why I'm waiting for an Elder Scrolls game where I can have an actual cloak of invisibility, you know? But anyway, okay, so, oh boy, oh man, okay, game creator JJ asks, what is your least favourite / worst Elder Scrolls game? The answer to that, a lot of you are probably expecting something a bit more controversial, but honestly I'm just going to say Arena. Arena is bloody terrible, it barely runs properly on modern computers, the game itself is just weird, the combat is strange, it's, I mean, as a kind of beginning point for the Elder Scrolls, I appreciate it for what it was and the influence it had and stuff like that, but as a game, no, Arena's pretty awful. It was buggy as hell, even by the standards of the day, you know, so yeah, definitely I'd say Arena's my least favourite. I've played it the least of all of them. So anyway, okay, there's a big old paragraph from somebody here. Deathinator999 asks, first, Jingles, would you like to see the return of Daggerfall-sized dungeons, along with their confusing attributes being implemented into future Elder Scrolls games? The answer is no! No, never. I hate Daggerfall's dungeons with a passion. They're the one thing that prevents me from playing Daggerfall more regularly than I do. I'm serious. I would have played the shit out of Daggerfall if it wasn't for the fact that for those stupid randomly generated dungeons, which turned into ridiculous labyrinths with no indication of where your quest objective in them actually was. Oh man, God, those things were awful. So no, not a chance. I'd never want to see that come back. If I'm perfectly honest with you. Okay, so second is, along with crazy dark elven women that worship pet rats living in their basements, yeah, maybe that could be a thing that comes back. It's been a bit of a weird thing, rats and basements and dark elves in the Elder Scrolls. I think it's a bit ever since Morrowind. Third, would you like to see MERP finished for Skyrim? I think, I'm assuming you're referring to the Middle-earth role-playing project, or whatever it's called, you know, the Middle-earth Elder Scrolls thing. I'd like to see it finished for Skyrim. Personally, he would like to see, apparently, the Witch King of Angmar killing hobbits while riding his fell beast. I think it'd be great to have a proper open world Lord of the Rings game, actually. On my wish list of dream games I would love to make and or buy at some point in the future, an open world Lord of the Rings game is pretty high up on that list. So yeah, I would love to see them actually manage to finish that without running into any horrible copyright problems and having to shut it down. So yeah, no, I'd love to see that finished. Elder Scrolls Freak 26 asks, what is your favourite race in the Elder Scrolls and why? The answer to that is Dark Elves, and the reason why Dark Elves are my favourite is very, very simple. Every single other race in the Elder Scrolls games is quite derivative of something in real life. The Nords are quite clearly based on sort of Vikings and Celts and that sort of thing. The Imperials are very much based on ancient Rome. The High Elves are pretty much, well, they're fairly Tolkien-esque really at the end of the day. Same kind of goes for the Bosmer, except the Bosmer kind of remind me also very much of Native American Indians. The Argonians remind me of kind of the Aztecs with their ziggurats and pyramids and stuff like that. The Khajiits, they're kind of very Middle Eastern, very blatantly Middle Eastern. Same goes for Hammerfell with the Red Guards. The Bretons are basically just medieval England. They literally are. And the Orcs, aren't bad actually. It's still Orcs at the end of the day, though. That's like such a common fantasy race, you know, if we're honest. So yeah, no, really, at the end of the day, Dark Elves and their culture and even the way, well, not so much their way they look, because that's kind of nicked slightly from Dungeons and Dragons at the end of the day, that is. But the reason for why they look the way they do is interesting, and you know, in terms of the in-universe lore, and just, you know, their architecture, their cities, their naming customs, their politics, their everything about the Dark Elves is, some of it is quite obviously derivative. I mean, Balmora looks very Middle Eastern after all, doesn't it? But there's just the sheer weirdness of the Dark Elves. It really makes them stand out from the other races as being more than just a little derivative of stuff that we see in the real world. The Dark Elves really genuinely come across as being, their culture could be a real one that isn't based on another existing real world culture, if you know what I mean. So what I'm saying, I think what I'm basically saying is, in a nutshell, is the Dark Elves are certainly the most unique race in Tamriel, and that's why they're my favourite. So from a design perspective, they're just fantastic. The art direction for everything to do with Morrowind, yeah, and most of that being the Dark Elves, is just magnificent, and yeah, they're definitely my favourites.